It's not for me to be like, wow, I've got this incredible podcast and this is how many views I'm getting. I want it to be, I've helped more people.
What were your dreams growing up? Looking at those photos, what did you want to be when you were older? What were your dreams?
I remember we had like a thing where we all had to go up on stage and say what we wanted to be when we were older. And a lot of people would say, oh, I want to be a doctor, or I want to be an astronaut, or all these big things. And I said, but I remember about a K in to the finish at 41 Ks. I had my glasses on and I could feel the tears start to come down. I felt a little bit lost before Coffee Charge Conversations. I think after 47 episodes, maybe it's time for me to share a little bit of my story. We put so much effort into each of these episodes, and I honestly love what I do. And if you could do the smallest favor for me, it'll be quicker than making a cup of coffee. Just hit that subscribe button or like and follow on the audio channels. Thank you so much.
Hello and welcome back to Coffee Charge Conversations. I'm Richard Farson, stepping into the host seat today for a very, very special episode. Now, he's used to hosting podcasts and steering the direction of conversations, but today we flipped the script. Today, I'll be bringing a conversation with the founder of Coffee Charge Conversations, who also happens to be my best mate, Michael Johnston. Mike, we're at the beautiful Alcatraz at Prison Break Market. Welcome to your own show. Feels a bit weird saying that.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried that you might be a better guest than me, judging by how engaging you are. And it's weird sitting on this side. I must say, I'm used to kind of deflecting the conversation and letting other people talk about their stories. So, yeah, I think after 47 episodes, maybe it's time for me to share a little bit of my story.
I think the viewers are going to be really excited for this episode. And I wanted to try something a little bit different to start. I'm not sure when last you did a show and tell.
A show and tell? Wow. I mean, I must have been 7 or 8.
Well, I've got a couple of photos. Don't ask me where I got them from. And I just want you to have a look at them.
Okay. Yo.
I want you to describe what you're seeing in these photos. Talk to me about young Michael Johnston, the beginning of Mike.
Yo, so this first one, which I'm sure we'll show on screen, I must have been about 6 or 7, and I remember I got the Froggy Award. So it wasn't like an award that you actually get for doing something, but almost every week someone would get the Froggy to take home. And I just look so proud in this photo to have received the Froggy Award, and I've got my little sandals on. Yeah, so that's that photo. Brings back some good memories. Then we got this one.
Barney the dinosaur coming out.
Yeah, I'm holding Barney. Yeah, I look happy, and I was probably also must have been about 5 or 6 in this photo. Yeah, so that's that. And then the third photo,
Young Dale Steyn.
a little bit of an awkward stance there. This was when I started playing cricket, and yeah, it makes me think, because when I was in these earlier photos, growing up as a kid, I mean, I had a really awesome childhood. I'm blessed to have the parents that I have. My mom is literally the most selfless person
She's amazing.
I've ever met.
Answer on that.
And I think I get all my weirdness from my dad. My dad is very
He's a
eccentric.
brilliant character.
And he doesn't like going with the flow, you know. So he's very unconventional, and I think I get that from my dad. But growing up as an only child, I always had a little bit of a feeling of being a little bit alone, and I felt like people didn't quite understand me.
What were your dreams growing up? Looking at those photos, what did you want to be when you're older? What were your dreams?
So I remember we had like a thing where we all had to go up on stage and say what we wanted to be when we were older. And a lot of people would say, oh, you know, I want to be a doctor, or I want to be an astronaut, or all these big things. And I said, I want to be a dad.
That's an unbelievable answer. I'm not surprised coming from you.
Yeah, I think I've always been a little bit different. And yeah, so I'm always the one to have a bit of a dad joke or a dry sense of humor. So it kind of makes sense now why that was my answer back in the day.
We need to talk a little bit about something that I feel is very important to you. And when I think back to our time at school, you running marathons and ultra marathons was probably not on my bingo card. You did Cape Town Marathon last year, Two Oceans Ultra Marathon this year. I don't know how many half marathons you've done. You've got, I think, the Soweto Marathon coming up. How did you go from, school, where I don't think you were much of a runner, not really into running, and you've evolved into this athlete? And honestly, like you leave me in awe a lot of the time in terms of how hard you train. How did that whole journey begin for you?
Well, thanks for the compliment first. My first run that I did was, my first proper run, like a 5K. I was very sore afterwards, and I could almost feel like my lungs felt like they were going up against my ribs. My back was sore, my shoulders were sore. I felt super tired. I kept taking breaks. And after that run, I was like, this is not something that I want to do. And then I think kind of starting the podcast and starting to do things that challenged me, all of a sudden I changed the way that I viewed running. And I saw it as something that was going to help me become a better version of myself. And honestly, since I've started running, it's taught me, it's similar to golf. It's taught me that the only person you can really compete with is yourself. And, sometimes you on a lonely run, Two Oceans, that was my longest run that I'd ever done, 56 Ks this year.
Was that by any chance the run where you FaceTime me during your run?
I did.
Before Cape Town. That was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
At about 40 Ks, I phoned you. We had a little chat, and I just needed a bit of a pick-me-up at that moment. But majority of that run, for 6 hours, I was running by myself. And, that's something I never would have wanted to do. I don't think anyone would really want to do that. But what it's taught me is how to handle those negative thoughts. And you're always going to have those demons in your head and those voices saying, I think you should take a break. You're feeling a bit tired. Maybe you're not ready for this. And I think running's just taught me that those voices are always going to be there. Even I'll go for a 5K sometimes and people think, it's just a 5K for Mike, he'll enjoy it. I still get those voices in my head, and there's times I wake up and I really don't feel like going for a run. But afterwards, I just feel like I achieved something, and it helps me with my goal setting a little bit to set things that I know that I can achieve, but are something I've never done before.
How difficult is it really to run an ultra marathon? And were there any points in the race where you genuinely thought to yourself, I'm out. I can't do this?
Sure. I think one thing to non-runners or people that haven't run even just a normal marathon before is you've got a lot of extra adrenaline on the day, which does help you. Same thing with the 21K. I think it just gives you that extra kick. And having people support you and cheering you on, it really does help mentally as well. There were stages. I'd say Cape Town Marathon, I got to about 28 Ks and I hit the wall completely. And the last 14 Ks, I had a stitch. I wasn't happy. I was very grumpy, actually. I was wearing my glasses and you had people cheering on the sides. And and then you get that one comment and someone will say, "This is a race, not a walk." Or
That's enough.
and like I felt grumpy, man. But I remember about a K in to the finish at 41 Ks, I had my glasses on and I could feel the tears start to come down. And I just knew that, I'd done something that I never thought I'd do in my life. And very similar in Two Oceans, that feeling when you know that you're going to finish and you've just done something that you trained so long for and you doubted yourself so many times and now you've actually done it. Best feeling in the world.
No, phenomenal achievement. And as I mentioned, you really do leave me in awe when you do these kind of things. I think you've got Soweto Marathon coming up. How's the prep been for that? How are you feeling?
2 weeks time. So I mean, this morning I did a 15K this morning. I feel good. It always gets some endorphins flowing. I feel good. Sometimes when I'm doubting what I'm going to say in the podcasts and stuff like that, going for a run just sorts that out and it builds that confidence muscle. I've been training with Guy, who you know quite well as well, and he was my first guest. And it's been awesome because we've been just helping each other along the way. So I love setting these goals and keeping myself accountable.
For the people at home, I've basically been dropped from being Mike's running buddy because we did a half marathon in Knysna. And after about 16 kilometers, I thought everything was going brilliantly. And I remember we stopped to get some refreshments from the goals. And I had the sweat dripping into my eyes. My eyes were bloodshot red. So I'm not surprised you've moved on to Guy. I think he's definitely more of an athlete than I am. So,
having said that, you did do 21 Ks that day.
yeah.
And I mean, I'm not quite sure the stats for a 21K, but only 1% of the world has done a marathon in their life. So I think you're probably a lot better than you think and that you give yourself credit for. Whether you finished in the time that you wanted or you didn't.
I finished.
You ran 21
I
kilometers.
cramped really badly at the end of that race, but yeah, it was a phenomenal experience. And to run in Knysna is just amazing. Finding a purpose. It's something that comes up as themes, I think, quite a lot in Coffee Charge conversations. And I think we spoke a little bit earlier. You on to how many episodes now?
So this is episode 48.
That's amazing.
I never expected it to get to this point. I mean,
Are you proud of yourself? When you look back, you must be proud, surely, to see, something that was just a mere idea a couple of years ago to where you've got to now. Surely you must be proud.
I am proud. There's a part of me that's so critical of myself, and it's something I've been working on a lot recently. And I think since I started adopting a bit of a growth mindset, I'm always trying to be better and look for ways to improve. And sometimes I'll watch a previous episode and it'll be great. Everyone will give me amazing feedback. And I'm just thinking about how I could have said something better or introduced a certain topic better. Having said that, though, this is been the best decision I've ever made in my entire life. It's taught me how to network with people. It's gotten me out of my comfort zone, and it's kept me accountable. There's an expectation that every 2 weeks there's going to be an episode coming out, and whether I feel good or I'm not in a good headspace, I've still got to make sure that that episode comes out. But I think, speaking about purpose, I felt a little bit lost before Coffee Charge Conversations. And it doesn't mean I had a bad life or a tough upbringing or anything like that. But I've always been a bit of a shy, reserved kid. And in school, I always wanted to be under the radar. I didn't want people to...
Yeah, that's character trait from you at school.
So speeches were like terrifying for me.
Yeah.
And as an introvert, I still don't love standing and speaking in front of a whole bunch of people. But what Coffee Charge did for me is it got me out of my shell, and it just like running, it taught me that fear is built up in my head way more than what it actually is. I figured out my purpose through Coffee Charged.
I remember so clearly right at the beginning when you had the idea for it and you gave me a call. I was in the car about, the whole idea of Coffee Charge Conversations and having your own podcast. But at what point did it kind of click for you that this was really something you wanted to pursue, and it wasn't just going to maybe be a hobby that you did on the side, a couple of episodes?
I started seeing... So I've always been someone who hates small talk. I absolutely hate it, and I think it's because I'm so pathetic at it. So the reason why I was also shy and reserved is because I felt like I couldn't jump into conversations about the weather or how much it's rained or how busy the traffic's been. Those conversations, they dulled my light a little bit. And I think since starting the podcast, in those early episodes, I realized that those deep conversations are not so hard to have. And in a group environment, it's quite difficult to have those conversations. When you're going out for beers with the boys, you're not asking them about their childhood or, lessons they've learned, because they'll probably take the piss out of you sometimes.
Yeah, fair.
So Coffee Charge just gave me a way to have those conversations. It almost was sometimes a bit like a therapy session. I'd walk out, and even if I was nervous and doubting myself going into the episode, I'd always feel so good afterwards. And I always felt like by me being a little bit vulnerable, or my guests being vulnerable, sharing their perspective and their stories, I get the feeling that it was helping someone else at the end of the day, and that really aligned with who I wanted to be.
Was there any specific inspiration that you got from anyone or anything that kind of planted the seed in your head that said to yourself, yes, I want to start my own podcast. This is the direction I want to go in. How was the idea kind of born for Coffee Charge Conversations?
So there's not too many people in South Africa, and they weren't at the time, that I looked to for inspiration in the podcast space. It's obviously very big in the States and in Europe. But I remember the two podcasts that I was listening to at the time was Diary of a CEO and Jay Shetty's On Purpose podcast. And I loved that you could have those kind of conversations on such a deep level. And often I'd be listening to an episode and it would be a topic that I'm really interested in, or someone would share a story and it would relate to me, or I'd be like, wow, I've had something similar in my life, and I always wanted to jump in and I couldn't. So I never really considered myself as a host, but I thought the best way to have those conversations frequently with people, and people that I want to have those conversations with, is to start my own podcast.
And it's amazing to actually see the growth in you. I mean, I'm not sure if you've maybe seen it yourself, but from the outside, to see how confident you've become from if I look at the first episode to the last episode, the development and how much Coffee Charge has progressed has just been amazing. Do you feel like your confidence has grown a lot throughout this whole process?
Definitely. I think it comes down to doing something that aligns with your purpose. So until Coffee Charged, I had no idea what my purpose was. I knew that I wanted to make some sort of difference in the world. And yeah, after the first few episodes, I realized that my purpose was, and I had a vision board. I bought a vision board. One of those things was Cape Town Marathon. So I cut out a little thing of Cape Town Marathon. I put it on my vision board. And right in the middle, I put my purpose, which was to encourage other people to become the best versions of themselves.
I love that.
And that's exactly what I try to achieve with the podcast.
Outside of Coffee Charge conversations, you obviously have a normal 9 to 5 job. How difficult is it for you to kind of balance your love for the podcast and then your job outside of work?
It's tricky because a lot of people say you should just go all in on your passion. I'm kind of under the impression that sometimes you need a little bit of a financial backing in order to get your passion kick-started. In South Africa, also, I think it's changing and it's evolving, but podcasting is not a super big, well-funded industry.
Yeah.
So yeah, it can be tough, but I get hesitant to say how tough it is. Sometimes I think, oh, I'm recording 2 episodes on a Saturday morning at the end of my week on the Friday. I just want to go see some mates and relax, maybe have a few dorps, whatever. And I have to catch myself sometimes because it's not like someone else said, yeah, go do this podcast. We'll pay you to do it. I chose to do this and I love it. And it's given me so much meaning and so much purpose that, yes, some days I don't feel like making a social media reel or, thinking about what things I might ask my next guest. But I come back to, at the end of every episode, I walk out feeling so good, so inspired. And honestly, I've learned at least one big thing from every single guest. So you say maybe I've grown in my confidence. It's weird because I find myself in random situations. I'll think of advice that a guest would have told me or something. And yeah, I just feel like that's helped me to grow like you can't believe.
In terms of life lessons, which is another thing that's come up quite a lot, you've had so many wonderful guests, so many beautiful messages, so many wonderful themes, and you've spoken to a lot of inspiring people. What's something you've learned about yourself throughout all of these conversations that you've had with all your guests?
That I'm a very good listener. And I think I used to think that it was always about the way that you come across and the way that you show up and the things that you say. But actually, it's about how you let someone else feel heard. And when someone feels like you're genuinely listening to them and you're not just waiting for your chance to say something or add your piece to their story, then people start to open up and they tell you how they really feel about things. And yeah, I'm definitely, maybe it's because I was shy and reserved that I didn't speak so much when I was younger, but I'm a much better listener than I give myself credit for. 100%.
And we've obviously spoken about the journey of Coffee Charge from an idea to where it is today. in an ideal world, where do you see Coffee Charge Conversations in, say, 5 years' time? What are your dreams for this wonderful podcast that you've created?
I mean, I'd obviously financially, I'd like to be able to pay the rest of the team more and
Sponsors.
yeah, get some sponsors. I'd like to get a team eventually to start running the social media and stuff so that I can kind of look at just the actual conversation with the guest. But yeah, dude, I want to expand, and not for me. I want to expand so that I can help more people, and get a positive message widespread. That's exactly where I want to be. It's not for me to be like, wow, I've got this incredible podcast and this is how many views I'm getting. I want it to be, I've helped more people.
Absolutely. Thinking of the future, not necessarily podcast wise, but personally, what dreams, aspirations do you have for yourself in the next 5 to 10 years?
Sure. Such a job interview question. Um, sure. I mean, I think I don't know about the timeline, but I'd like to start a family of my own one day. Wanting to be a dad.
Now you
As a
live
kid,
out your dream and then all
I'd like to, live that childhood dream. But I think in anything I do, no matter where I am in life, no matter what I'm doing in 5 years' time, I just want to be remembered for someone that's kind.
Well, you are very kind. I'll give you that. Mikey, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much to Joanne Sudbury and Prison Break Market for having us at Alcatraz. It's been very interesting for me stepping into the host seat. I must say, very different, surreal experience. But Mikey, thank you so much for joining me on your own show. I really appreciate the time.
Rich, it was incredible having you as the host. And I think you are a much better host than you give yourself credit for.
Thank you.
Maybe when I'm on leave, I'll get you as a substitute. But yeah, I mean, it's always nice catching up with you. I mean, you such a close mate with me, and I value our friendship. I think it's rare these days, especially as men, that you have other men you can reach out to and chat to on a daily basis. And you're one of those people in my life. So I really appreciate you doing this today. And yeah, I just think you are an incredible person.
Thank you, my brother. Appreciate it.